bloodbath.
Yeah.
For an entire week, starting on September 10th, for an entire week. That video was allowed to proliferate across the internet on X for the longest time, of all of that trauma and blood and gore coming out of Charlie Kirk's neck.
Yeah.
That wasn't sensitive content. I intentionally blurred the video that I disseminated so that it wouldn't be labeled sensitive content, but they shut it down because I flew too close to the sun. Then Alex Jones came out attacking me. Of course, his little nerd Harrison Smith. Anyways, the false flag is the fallout. The enforcement mechanism, that's the false flag. So then you go look at the yield curve inversion watch and look what's happening here. Now explain this. It's uncanny.
It is something I just picked up studying the markets for a very long time. So if you look at 1998, I don't know if you can scroll. Yeah, there you go. Let's see here.
It's right here.
Yep, 1998, the yield curve actually inverted there, and it's the unraveling right after that first arrow. What happened there in 2001? Tell me. What event happened in 2001?
Well, September 11th, of course.
9/11.
Yeah.
So obviously, they inverted the yield curve in 2008 or 2007, and look what happened there. The second purple line. We had the financial crisis. So
they called that a recession.
They call that the Great Recession.
Yeah.
What's interesting, from 2008 to 2018, you made nothing. So this is known as the Great Recession, or the lost decade is what they call it, because you had a decade of flat returns, and not a decade of actual bullish returns, and people were spoiled from the 90s and the early 2000s. Fast forward to 2000 on that same chart, we had in 2019, they lowered the interest rates as well. The yield curve was inverted, and it was an uninversion that led us into 2020. So this chart doesn't show it, but later on, if I was to show you a chart, an updated chart, in 2020, we had COVID, the pandemic. And then in 2024, if I was to redo the whole chart, the interest rates, the inversion of the yield curve, which absolutely took 2 years that it was inverted. It was the longest in history since 1950 where the yield curve was basically inverted. And for those of you that don't know what an inversion is, it is a Wall Street term, but I'll break it down to kitchen talk, basically. There's a 2-year bond, a 5-year bond, and a 10-year bond. Now, if you put your money with an institution or lock it up for 10 years, you would think the 10-year would pay higher than a 5-year and a 2-year, versus a 2-year is not going to pay as much as a 10-year or 5-year. And so what an inverted yield curve basically means that the 2-year is going to pay just as much as a 10-year. And what that means is that the economy is doing bad. Foreign investors are not in the liking of the economy. They're not trusting it long term, but they trust it enough to be short term. So they're very cautious. They have their FOMO, they have their FUD. Everything goes into that 2-year. But in the industry as a whole, the 10-year is such an impactful cornerstone of our financial ecosystem, because all the premiums, every credit card, every financial institution bases everything off the 10-year treasury. So when it uninverts, dude, that's when we have these false flag events. When it comes back into normalcy, the 2-year, the 5-year, the 10-year, where you see a normal curve, a normal common sense curve, that's when we see the bullshit happen. That's when we see the 9/11s, the pandemics of COVID, the inoculations, the deaths. And then now they inverted the yield curve for the past 2 years up to through August of 2024 last year. Now it's uninverted, and boom, here we are. We haven't even scratched the surface yet, Stu. There's a major worldwide assassination that just happened. We literally predicted this on SPF. I think it was like the first or second one we did. And I said that you can almost predict like when something's going to happen right after a yield curve uninversion. Like we
Yeah,
we
you sure
definitely have it
did.
on tape.
Yeah,
So
you absolutely did. And